for coming today, and I thought we'd just get started. Very quickly, I just want to introduce to you the new department that His Eminence Metropolitan Serapion started in the diocese. It's called the Department of Church and Culture. That's the official name. But the name we've kind of given it, the marketing name that we've given it is Rediscover I Am, and the tagline is See Christ, Know Christ, Be Christ. And so this department is really trying to have a vision of being very Orthodox and very American, and just recognizing that we live in this culture now, and that we need to adapt and understand how we can spread the message of Orthodoxy in a way that's appealing to our children, and present it to them in a cultural way that's appropriate for them to understand what's going on. And it's something the church has always done from the very beginning. And I'll get through all of these things. If you'd like to follow us at all, the Instagram is Rediscover I Am, and the website is rediscoveriam.org. So I highly recommend just to start following those pages. We have a lot of different ministries that we're working on. I'm just going to skip them all. Most of them are relationship-based, but I'll just share with you the video of Sayyidina talking about the department and introducing the department. See, Macs never work for me. They just don't like.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. We thank God for the establishment of the Department of Church and Culture, which is one of the departments of the Diocese of Los Angeles. The idea of establishment of the department is to help the pastoral care of the churches, the parish churches, which is in every parish church is the basis of our pastoral care. To strengthen the service, we started to address some of the issues which we, out of the experience of the work of the diocese, to establish a department to strengthen and coordinate the service of the parish churches in these different areas, like Christian education, diaconia, mission, and now the church and culture. The church and culture is an important issue from the beginning of Christianity. From the beginning, how to spread the gospel, the Christian faith, the Orthodox faith, in different culture. The Orthodox faith is about any culture. And whatever the culture exists, the important is how to keep the Orthodox faith. In the early church, there are different cultures. The Greek, the Latin, the Syriac, the Egyptian, and so on. And in our Coptic Orthodox Church, we moved from the Greek and the Alexandrian, then the Coptic, and then the Arab, when the Arabs came, and how the church always succeeded to address this issue. Now, in the land of immigration, in America, Europe, Australia, different places, we are, with the movement of immigration, we are facing different culture. The early immigrants, they came, established churches, and they tried, that is how the churches as their churches in Egypt. But now, with a new generation coming, we have these issues coming, not only related to the language, to the use English a lot, but also is related to the culture where we are in this society. And it was very simple for the kids in the early time of the immigration to ask about their identity. Are we American or we Egyptian? Now we are trying to solve this problem. I say we are Christian, we are Orthodox Christian. We live in America, then we are American. But what is important is we are Christian Orthodox. The challenge for us is the faith which we received from Egypt, how we present it without any change in the American culture where we live today. How we express our Orthodox faith in the American culture, which is required to understand our Orthodox faith, more and more study about the faith, and also to understand the American culture and how to do screening, to discern from the faith what related to the culture and what related to the faith. And for the culture here, what is the positive things in the culture and what are the negative things in the culture which we have to watch. How to be a real Orthodox in American culture, how our church to be an Orthodox church, keeping the faith, but not as a foreign body in the American culture. And this is what the experience of our church in Egypt. Egypt is deeply integrated into society, nevertheless, always keeping the Orthodox faith through the time. So this department is very important, not only for the parish church and the region of the clergy, to help them to address many of the issues of faces, but also to parents. Because the parents, they need help how they bring up their kids in the Orthodox faith, which is a precious faith, which carried to us through the blood of the martyrs, but at the same time, not to be foreigners in the society where we live. So I wish all the success for this department to help us in our pastoral care to address this issue and to prove, as it is proved through the centuries, that the Orthodox faith is above any culture, but it should be expressed in a certain culture without a change of the Orthodox faith. May the Lord bless all the activities of this department for the glory of His name and for the benefit of His people, to whom is glory now and forever. Amen.
I just want to point out the schedule to you just one more time so you know what's kind of happening for the day. My name is Claire. I'm just so glad to see all of you with us today. So right now we are going to split up into two groups. Those who prefer an English talk for session 1 will stay here in the church. Those who prefer an Arabic talk will be in the social hall. We have Makar with us. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist. He will be leading session 1 here. He's wonderful. You're going to learn a lot. Archie Mark will be with you all in the Arabic talk. He's also wonderful. You'll also learn a lot. And then we're taking a 15-minute break at 12:15. So that's built in with the Q&A, all of that together for our first talk. And if you have children in childcare, this is a good opportunity to check in on them, just make sure they're doing okay, or just even ask the servants if they need anything from you, even if you don't have to go inside, but just so that you can relieve them if there's any needs. And you'll stay in the church if you still want to attend the English for the second session, and you'll stay in the social hall if you want to attend the Arabic talk for the second session. Then we'll have lunch, and then we will have a workshop that's split into two groups, and this one is split based on like gender. So there's one for boys, raising sons in Christ, and that one's going to be here in the church, and there's raising daughters in Christ, and that will be in the church social hall. So you'll split up based on your preference. So if you have a boy and a girl, you'll have to make the tough decision as to where to go. If maybe there's one that needs a little bit more of your attention, but it's the spiritual care, just based more towards the things we're considering for girls and things we're considering for boys, but it's going to be similar, but just again, more space to talk things through and to be together. And that one will be more intimate, and you'll get to ask a lot of questions. It's less presentation-ish as much as it is conversational. So any questions about the schedule or what you can expect? Okay, and then lastly, we have a resource table outside. It has a whole bunch of books, and they are yours to take based on like a suggested donation. But if you only have $1 on you, just Venmo $1, or you can just take the book, and if you want to donate later. And they all have QR codes too if you want to order one of the books, and they all kind of tie into the themes of some of the things that we are talking about. So they're all really great books, but obviously we ask you to use your discernment and as you're reading, and what may or may not work for your family, but they're all Christian-based. They're all really great resources, thank God. And then lastly, before I let you go to split off, we have a family fun basket and a book basket that we're raffling off. So if you grab a ticket and you write your name, choose one of the baskets to put into the raffle. At the end of the day, we'll give away both baskets. Just a little fun thing that we like to do. So, any questions? All right, so at this point, we'll ask you to go to the social hall for those who are attending the Arabic talk, and for those the English can stay here, and I'll invite Makar up.
Okay, all right. So I'm very excited to be among you. We are going to talk about what is probably the greatest challenge we will have in our lives, maybe. Also, I have been thinking lately that it's also the greatest honor that we have that God allows us to be responsible over a soul, and and I hope we remember that this is something, and we'll talk more about this. It's a great honor to be a parent. The topic is called parenting with purpose. So we're going to talk about the purpose of parenting, and maybe some of you will say, "Well, I really want some practical stuff," because some people, they don't like abstract things. They would just want to know, like, just tell me the thing to say, tell me the thing to do, and we'll do some of that. Okay, we're going to do some of that, but we want to recalibrate or recenter ourselves on what is the purpose of this whole thing that we're doing. Why am I doing it? Right? Why am I doing what I'm doing with these kids? Why did I even have them? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Maybe you ask it when you're really upset. But what about when you're really happy too? Like, why did you have kids? Like, why did we do this, right? Our parenting has been hijacked. Hijacked, does everybody know what the word hijacked means? Hijacked means like somebody goes to a car with a gun or something and says, "Hey, get out of the car, I'm taking your car." Your car gets hijacked. Our parenting and the purpose of our parenting has been hijacked. And I'm going to tell you some more conscious hijackers and some more subconscious hijackers, okay? Our parenting has been hijacked by tasks to complete. All I'm trying to do all day is just finish things. Tasks all day. Lists. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do that, right? Protecting our pride as parents. I was trying to figure out a good way to explain this point. Some of us, we all know actually if we're blessed to have a bishop visit us or Abuna comes to visit your home, once that person of that, dignity enters your home, you're very just focused on making sure they feel respected and they have a good experience, right? Like, okay, the priest is visiting me. I need to make sure things are good. I need to take care of them. Attend to their needs, right? Check, watch, monitor. Do they have any requests? Anything like that, right? Some of us have a similar experience when like, if you have like if your teta or giddu is visiting, right? Like I remember when I was younger and I would go visit my teta or giddu, my dad would say, when you see teta, and my teta was blind, he would say, when you see teta, kiss her hand. That's what my dad would tell me. He said, when you see teta, kiss her hand, right? And as soon as when we enter where teta and giddu were, we had to honor them, like we were attending to them. Some of us, we want our home with our kids to be like that all the time. We want, when I'm home, my kids have to attend to me, right? And that's not, like it's one thing when you have a visitor and it's a one-off, it's an exception. But it's not going to work like that with our kids every day when you're trying to build them up to be leaders and eventually become your equals, your friends, right? A peaceful home. Some of us are so fixated on, I need peace at home. That's it. I don't care what's going on. If you're sad, you're happy. If you're stressed, you're not. Peace at home. Protecting our children from struggles. Some parents, if they see the child struggling, they jump. Just go. We gotta go help. I gotta jump in. Crying, gotta go, right? And of course, like sleep training is a good example, right? It starts from then. It starts from a little bit before then too, right? So we want to protect our children from struggles. They get into a fight with another kid, we jump in. They're upset, they fall, we run, right? We don't want them to have any struggles. And being the perfect parent. I want to be the perfect parent. Perfect is the enemy of good. Perfect is the enemy of good. Perfectionism comes from anxiety. It's a type of poison. It's poison. Because it's a complete distraction from the reality of life, which is we are all broken. I am imperfect already. And if I try to present myself as perfect, my child will not be comfortable sharing their imperfections and their journey towards perfection with me. Let me say that again. If I'm going into this parenting process as I have to be this perfect authority, I'm a perfect model. First, my child will never come to me until they're perfect because they don't want to be ashamed. They don't want to experience or see me be disappointed. The other bigger cost is I am not letting them look at Christ. If I'm perfect, why do I need to point to Christ? So, being the perfect parent, another way we get, this is also where comparison creeps in. Comparison, when it comes to parenting, if you're trying to be perfect, one of the ways you try to be perfect is you compare yourself to what all the other parents are doing, right? This parent's got these activities, this parent talks to their kid this way, this parent's doing that, this parent's posting pictures of their kids doing somersaults from the ceiling, and all this stuff, and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, why isn't my kid doing somersaults from the ceiling? I'm failing. I gotta do an activity. I gotta take the kid to train and learn because I saw it on Instagram, right? And now I'm not a perfect parent because look, my kids, they just walk, right? So our parenting has been hijacked. These are a bit easier to understand, but there's some more that are deeper. The subconscious hijackers. Maybe I'm using parenting to compensate for or distract from my unfulfilling marriage. Maybe my marriage isn't going well. So rather than have a conversation with my spouse, I'll just fill up all the time with things that have to do with my kids, right? Oh, and like you're about to make eye contact with your wife, and you just, it's the kids over there, yeah. I need to do something with the kids, right? Or, hey, how was work? Oh, I don't know, we gotta get the snacks, we gotta get the dinner going, we gotta get the diaper change, whatever. Maybe I don't have a fulfilling marriage and I'm using parenting to compensate for that. Maybe I'm so, and this is it's gonna come up again. Maybe if all I did in family life was marriage, I feel like I have nothing to show for all that time and all that life. So I'm gonna make the kids be what I show for it, My marriage was a disaster, but you know what? At least I could show I need to make these kids successful so that at least I could show something for all these decades. But you're burdening these kids with being the outcome, the result, the success, the evidence of your life, the validation for your life, which is not right. Using parenting to compensate for my difficult childhood. If you had a difficult childhood, which most people had a difficult childhood, okay? Most people had challenges or there were failures in their growing up. Sometimes we say to ourselves, I am never going to do this thing that my parents did. I'm never going to do that. And before you know it, by the time you become a parent, you have like 10 to 20 of those things. Of these things where I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that. And so basically, your parenting now is all referencing your childhood and trying to do the opposite of your childhood. So what would happen if you just didn't have those reference points there? What if you just weren't there? What would you do with your child? If you didn't have a good friendship with your parents at any point, now you might be overly friendly with your child. If your parents never provided, some materialistic thing, now you're overly providing materialistic things for your children. Using parenting to redeem other failures in my life or to validate myself in society. Because when you become a parent, you kind of enter this this new social circle, right? It's a very broad social circle. But sometimes we let the fact that we have children, we use that to feel valid in this world. I'm not good in my job. I don't have good social relationships. I don't have anything. There's really nothing going. But hey, look, I'm a parent. I got these kids. And the last one is using my children to create a social group for myself. And sometimes this is what we see with older parents who failed, and we'll talk about this in a moment, who failed to nurture a healthy adult support system for themselves. So they're just older, and at the end of the day, they didn't nurture this over the years. All they got is their kids. And now when they're alone or bored or tired or feeling lonely or anything, or feeling insecure or feeling needy or anything, or in a little bit of discomfort or pain, they call the kids, they call the kids, they call the kids, they call the kids. You know those kids? Those are my clients, right? They're my clients, they're our clients. They're the ones who are like, wait, I gotta go see my mom, I gotta go see my dad. Why? And you know who's complaining about it? Their spouse. So my children, if I do the right thing, is I am raising them to leave me. I'm raising them to leave me. And if I did my job well, we will have a very solid friendship. So I'm raising them to leave, and what remains is a solid friendship. Okay? That's the perfect balance. Leave and be friends. Okay? All right. So I want to remind you something. And this is when we're going to get into a slightly difficult message. We probably have like a few difficult messages here, but that's what we do. It's great. I want to remind you, my beloved brothers and sisters, you did not invent parenting. You did not invent it, the concept. It didn't come from you. It was there before you. The concept and structure of family and reproduction were created by God. And I want to show you some verses. And it says in Genesis, and he brought her, Eve, to the man, to Adam. God made this relationship. He invented it, right? And in Proverbs 18, it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. That means having a spouse, being married, which is the beginning of a family, is something that God created. God makes it happen. It comes from God. It didn't come from you. You're just participating in a structure that God created. You're participating in something that existed before you. With children now, it said, then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. He told them, have children. And it says in Psalm 127, it says, children are a heritage from the Lord. That means these kids are from God too. So your spouse is from God. The construct of family is from God. The children are from God. And it says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. So the person who's sustaining your home is God. So, to fully realize the purpose of family, marriage, and parenting, we must refer to God. We must refer to God. And the best parents know that they are not the final authority in their home. God is. Everything we're doing under this roof, not this roof specifically, but this roof too, the roof of my home, my house, everything we do, we are all submitting to God. It's not about me. It's about pointing to Christ. Again, we're going to get some practical stuff. I know some people, they can't handle all the abstract. So what is the purpose of parenting? What is the purpose of parenting? And I want to tell you, you're probably going to be like, oh, this is so cliche. Or you're saying this, just because it's like the Sunday school answer. But I challenge you, my beloved brothers and sisters, to find me a better purpose. Find me a more accurate purpose than what I'm going to tell you. Find me a more general purpose. There is nothing that you can find that's more general than this. The purpose of parenting is to make little Christs. Everything else that you might think, oh, but what about this? But what about that purpose? What about this purpose? It all fits under this purpose. And if anything that you think of does not fit under this purpose, it is not a good purpose. Let me say that again. If any other idea, purpose comes to your mind, and you don't fit it, it doesn't fit under this umbrella purpose, it is not a good purpose. What if you say my purpose is to be rich? Why? Why? Is it to serve Christ? That's really though, but really? We got to be careful. What if my purpose is to have a great reputation in society or in my community? What if my purpose is to have my kids be amazingly physically, successful in sports and it's just crazy. Put any type of sports ball in their hand, they're going to do something with it. Amazing, right? Win awards. What if my purpose is to have my kids so academically successful? What if my purpose is to have my kids be so charismatic and very likable? Why? It needs to fit under this purpose, to make little Christs, right? And let's not forget, as adults, isn't that what we talk about at church all day, every day anyway? Like by the time you become an adult, that's all we're telling you to do anyway, is to be like Christ. So why are we not doing that with our kids? It starts when they're kids. In 2 Corinthians, it says, but we all are being transformed into the same image of Christ, from glory to glory. Like that's what we're doing as adults. So we started as kids. Till we all come to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to a perfect man. What is that measure? It's to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Meaning, what is the standard that we're trying to reach? Christ. That's what we're trying to do. So again, I know this sounds like a cliche message, but I challenge you to find something that's better. What more could you want? It's to make little Christ. That is the purpose. Now, what are the character goals? What does it look like? Like, what should we want this child's character to be when we're making them like Christ? And I'm going to tell you 8 character goals. 8 character goals. The first one is, we want our child to be loving. We want them to be loving. Meaning they're not egocentric, like they're not focused on themselves. They realize that other people matter. Others matter. I don't matter more than others. Respect boundaries. Control your impulses, because what you do affects others. You are not the center of the world. You want your child to be responsible. Take ownership, control of your life. Be accountable. Like your child has to be accountable. Hey, you did this. What, like, why did you do it? Can you answer for why you did it? Maybe for young children, they can't answer why, for young children. But at least they should see that their action led to an outcome. Their action led to an outcome. That's for the little ones. But as they get older, they need to see that, hey, look, that was your action, that wasn't mine. You're responsible. You own that. And we'll get to the next one, is to be free. That you're not a victim. Like, we don't want to hear like, oh, but this and this happened, or look at what this kid did to me, and that's why I'm this and this and that. I'm in this terrible, disastrous emotional state because this kid. Or dad, you did this, or mom, you did that. You are free. You can do whatever you want. If someone is disrespecting you, what are you going to do? What do you do when someone disrespects you? Why do you allow them to disrespect you? I'm not saying you punch them in the face, but you can walk away. You're free. It's your choice. You're not a victim. You don't have to be a victim, right? You have choices that you are responsible for, so these 2 points are connected, right? Initiating. These are character goals. And by the way, please think about your children. Which of these do my children not have? Can they grow in more? Are they able to begin and complete tasks and goals? Like, are they able to start something? And that's good. Like, maybe you think that the thing they're starting is not that big of a deal. But don't focus on what the thing is itself. Just watch your child, see, are they able to start anything? Like play, for example. They go, they take the toy, and they do something with it. Are they able to do that? Some of us, by the way, we don't know how to leave our children alone. We don't know how to leave them alone. We think that the only way to be a good parent is that your mouth has to be speaking. Your mouth has to be open speaking. You have to be doing something. That's a good parent is always, we say engaged, right? But actually sometimes your children just appreciate that they are in your presence and they're doing something independently. Like I remember sometimes I'm watching my son, he's playing with something, and I'm watching him. I'm just watching. I'm enjoying just seeing him learn and explore. But if I take my phone out, he'll start to act differently because he lost my attention. He knows I'm not paying attention. But he just wants to be he wants to know that we're connected. He's in my presence. We're in each other's presence. But I don't necessarily have to be saying something because you want them to be able to initiate. They have to be able to start activities and complete tasks and goals. By the way, adults, we see a lot of times you find for adults who aren't really good at this, they have a hard time having difficult conversations because they don't know how to hey, there's an interpersonal or relational issue. They don't know how to initiate the conversation. Hey, can we talk about something? That's an important initiation. Could we talk about something? They can't. These things are all mushed up together. They're a victim of the circumstance. They don't have the initiative to start the conversation that they need to have. So they just oh, my life is, that's it. And they need all this help for someone to just tell them, hey, let's do a role play of how you would start the conversation with someone else, right? And that's because things weren't developed when they were younger. Because parents, we need to be careful to not stifle or deprive our children from that vacuum or that open space where they can generate ideas, create something, initiate something. And then the other thing too we do as parents sometimes is we are so full of distractions. Sometimes we don't let our child just finish what they're doing. They're eating, they're in the middle of a spoonful of something, and we're already commanding them about something else. While they're trying to take the spoon, we're telling them not to make a mess. It's like the kid's trying to complete a task. It's so hard to hold the spoon and put it in your mouth. And we're telling them, hey, don't make a mess. And the kid's like, wait, what? And especially if you put these children in front of multiple adults who happen to all be parents. Because then, it takes a village, all that. But then you have all these parents throwing commands at the kids. Oh, stand here, take a picture. Go here, over here, eat. Don't make a mess. Put your shoes on. And the kid's like, I don't know who to listen to. Everyone is an authority here. We have the same issue at work when you have 10 bosses, right? Because like if it's in some work context, like I work in one of my professional sides is I'm in consulting. So my client is my boss. My work is my boss. I have multiple bosses. And then I am also a boss. So what do? Right? Everyone's my boss. And we do the same thing with kids. But as an adult, I need to be able to manage. I need to be able to dance with all of this. But if I don't know how to finish even one task, because I never got to when I was a child, I'm not going to be able to be in this dance, here. Respectful of reality. Actions have real consequences in a real world. If you protect your child from consequences, they will not understand reality. As a general rule, we are trying to help our children as little as possible to reach their potential as much as possible. Like you want to provide the minimal help to give them the greatest opportunity to reach their potential. But do not provide any more help because they need to have that inside of them. It needs to come from inside of them. Growing. Growing is a character goal. You always have to be growing. This is by the way, these things I could put the same slide in a lecture for adults. Right? Recover when you're disappointed, when you're sad, when there's a failure. You can delay gratification. Lose well. Confess, I made a mistake. I messed up. Change. Forgive. 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 Wow. We need a retreat. Like we need 10 lectures to talk about forgiveness, right? Forgiveness. Or even though, by the way, just before we talk about that, even though, by the way, we talk about forgiveness, we say the word forgive like 10 to 20 times a day, even just in the Lord's Prayer. We say it all day, every day. We're saying forgive. And we have no idea how to do it. And so a growing person is someone who can forgive. Oriented to truth, that they are honest regardless of the consequences. It's very important. And the last character goal is oriented to transcendence. That they see there's something above this. There's something above this. And by the way, for a child, it's about prayer. You speak about God, who's not visible, right? You say, we're going to go pray. You say, the saints are here. The angels this. And you talk about history, the church, like the history of the history of mankind. And you tell them the stories. They don't see them, but they learn them, right? And you say, and when they see you praying, or they see you like referring to God, right? Like that, you say, oh, we're going to pray, or God's going to help us, like God willing. So, I want you to evaluate yourself, and I want to give you 5 categories of questions to ask. I'm going to give you questions. This slide will save you like maybe 5 to 6 therapy sessions, okay? I'm telling you. Because basically, it's what you come to therapy, the therapist is just going to ask you these questions. We're going to cover these topics. I'm not saying it's going to replace them. But I was thinking, what's a good way to explain this? Some people, many people like to exercise, right? But some people, they like to exercise on their own. Some people like to exercise when there's a teacher, like a trainer, someone to show you. Some people like to exercise in groups. Some people like the social side of exercise, right? So this slide, if you could do it on your own, it's kind of like the person who exercises on their own. You're going to sit there, you're going to get your journal out, and you're going to start writing for hours, okay? Which is fine, is good. Some people, they're going to need to talk about it with someone. That's fine. Do whatever works for you. But these are very important questions to ask. And the reason why we're going to talk about these questions, is because you need to interpret a child's behavior. Sorry about the font size. I need to, in the future, ask the size of the screen. I planned to, but I ran out of time. You need to interpret, I'm reading everything on the slides. You need to interpret a child's behavior as a response to your own. Whatever the child is doing is a response to me, to my parenting. It's very important. If you accept this, you're taking control back in the situation. Okay? If you don't accept this, and all you say, by the way, it's like it is a question of nature or nurture, right? But it's not one or the other, it's both, right? But the question is, some of us say, oh, my child is a difficult child. Like that's just the way they are. If you do that, everyone's a victim. You're a victim, the child's a victim of being a terrible person, the world's a victim of this child, right? Everyone's a victim. There's no one who's not a victim if the child is a difficult child. But if you're in control, then oh, wow, now all the doors open up. So many possibilities. The child's behavior is a response to your behavior. This is major, okay? As well as in terms of his motives, like as a response to their motives, needs, personality, and circumstances. But that stuff is what we all default to. It's a very convenient thing we like to say is, oh, they're just that way, the circumstances and this and that. Like, sure, that's true. So, questions. These are the categories, 5 categories, right? Some questions. Number 1, so because we're saying it's a response to your own, I want you to ask yourself, as a parent, some questions. The first set of questions is about your past. What went well in your childhood and what didn't? Please spend some time. By the way, each of these questions, think 20, 30, 40 minutes sitting down, writing, thinking, right? Be specific. What was the tone of your home environment? I asked the client one time, what was the tone or the dynamic of your home environment like? He said it was kind of like a perpetual seriousness. We were just serious all the time. We're just serious. Like, he said, my dad was emotionless and my mom was very anxious. So we were just serious all the time. Just tense. That's it. You know when I'm talking with him. Like, I'm talking to him in his 30s with his wife because there's big problems. And only now we're getting to it, right? Now, a related question is, who controlled the tone of your home environment growing up? Who was it? Was it your dad? Was it your mom? I have a client, the person who controlled the tone of the home environment was the youngest sibling who had so many problems. And because they had so many problems, all the attention was always focused on the youngest sibling. So the youngest sibling controlled the tone of the whole home. Who controlled it? How does your childhood experience shape your perspectives on parenting and your parenting goals and approaches? Like, how did it affect it? Let me just save you just one point. It did affect it. But how? You have to ask yourself that question. Next set of questions about your emotional and mental health. To what extent is worry and anxiety driving your parenting behaviors? Some of us think that we must be worried in order to be a good parent. A good parent is a worried parent. Let me say it the other way around. If you're a parent who's not worried is a bad parent. And some of us see we do the same thing with students. Like we say if you're not like worried about your studies, you're not a good student. Why can't you just be responsible? Why can't you just study on a schedule? Like, why do you have to be worried? Why must you be worried? Like, is worry a necessary ingredient to success? Is that how you have to do it? Are you afraid of losing your child's love, experiencing their anger, or seeing them in pain? Are you afraid? And is that fear driving you? Because maybe, by the way, when you were younger, you were so angry with your parents You were so angry with them, maybe for very good reasons. That you think that if your child is angry, they're experiencing the same thing that you experience. And that you're being the same parent that your parents are being to you. You get what I'm saying? Like, let me just say that again. When you were younger, you were angry with your parents. Now you have a child. And you think, oh, if my child is angry, that means I'm being to him what my parents were to me. Because we were both angry. But the same emotion doesn't mean the same circumstances. Okay? So, am I afraid of seeing my child angry? Because what that might say about me. But maybe it doesn't say anything about me. Actually, sometimes you need your child to be angry. And actually, they should be angry. Because it's reality. And why wouldn't you be angry if you don't get what you want? I want you to be angry. Not that I'm trying to make you angry, but I want you to feel free to be angry. Because I am here to train you, and I need to be here by your side to help you through this experience so that you learn how to do it on your own when you're angry. Because if you don't know how to be angry on your own, you know what you're going to do when you're angry, when you're an adult and you have freedom and power and resources? You're going to be abusive. So I need to be with you when you're angry. Not when you're angry, I say, oh, there's nothing going on. Get out of here. It's too simple. Like, don't overcomplicate things. Why are you angry? What's wrong with you? That's right. You shouldn't be angry because I'm doing the right thing. Now, you've completely missed that opportunity to be by their side as they experience a very valid emotion. By the way, anger and sadness are both emotions that Jesus experienced. Jesus is the perfect man. So there's nothing, and it says in Ephesians, it comes from the Old Testament, be angry and do not sin. There's nothing wrong with being angry, right? So are you afraid of seeing your child angry? Your character. Ask yourself this question. What are your character flaws and how do they influence how you parent? By the way, all of us, let's make some lists. What are my character flaws? I have many. And please take this list and eat it. Eat it. Love that list. Because that's where the growth is going to come. And if you think that, again, like I said, that to be a good parent you have to be perfect, that's disaster. Like, no, it's not going to work. Your marriage. Are you and your spouse in harmony in general? Like, is there harmony? Many kids, I don't think we even appreciate because we're so consumed with our own problems sometimes as adults. But our kids walk into these doors, the doors of our homes, and some of them, they don't know what to expect. There might be yelling, there might be stonewalling, like where the parents are giving each other the silent treatment. There might be triangulation where like the parent is like, yeah, you go tell your dad to this and go tell your mom to that. There might be parentifying where they come into their home and all of a sudden they are put on them or burdened with parenting responsibilities. Go take care of your sister. Go take care of your brother. And they're like, wait, but I'm just a kid. Or I had other things I wanted to do. Do I ever get to decide what I want to do with my time? Or is it just that I come home and I just get told what to do and then the night's over and I'm not even getting to think about my time? Like we have this thing where we tell kids, you got to go to sleep right now. No adult does that. No adult goes to sleep right now. Like go to sleep right now. You have thoughts. You want to think about things. Yeah, sure. But you learn, right? Like it's one thing to have good sleep hygiene. Like don't look at screens and we're not going to look at screens. We try to manage our blue light, right? We try to not have caffeine before we sleep or sugar sweets, right? Like there's a lot of good sleep hygiene, right? But sometimes I'm thinking like some of these kids, like maybe they just want to like read, they just want to sit up, they just want to do something, and we're just imposing so much on them. Meanwhile, adults, they can't do it. Like sometimes you just put in, how many of you try to sleep earlier? And you can't. Like you can't, right? Because you got too much, there's things on your mind. And at the end of the day, you judge yourself. You say, hey, at the end of the day, if it was really that important, I would have done it. Just like exercise. If it was important to you, you would have done it. But you're making a judgment call. Maybe it's not the best decision, but you're making a decision. And you're responsible. And you're free. And you're accountable. And you're in control. And those are all the character things we want in our kids. So are you and your spouse in harmony? Or is your kid coming home and seeing a harmonious teamwork, collaboration, right? Are we fighting over silly things, right? Do you provide conflicting parenting experiences to your children? That's why I always say to parents, like, first of all, in general, as a general life rule, be careful when you give your word. When you give your word. There's a whole topic on integrity and honoring your word and versus keeping your word. There's a whole big topic on what is your word and all of that. But as a parent, be careful when you give your word. Like if you're going to give a consequence, or you're going to give a reward, or you're going to teach something, whatever it is. One of the reasons why is because it's pretty important that the other parent honors the word that the parent gave, in general. Even if you disagree. But you could deal with it later. Deal with the disagreement later. But if one parent gave their word, in general, just honor the word. Be careful, but I want to tell the parent who's giving their word, be careful before you give your word. And also be careful about giving your word and expecting the other parent to enforce it without checking with the other parent. Right? Like you say, if you don't do this, you're not going to do blah, blah, blah before you go to sleep. And then it's the other parent's turn to put the kid to sleep. And you're like, wait, you just gave me all this trouble. I didn't even agree. Like that wasn't the consequence I would have given because I'm tired. And you have to be careful. But are you providing different experiences? Be also careful. I know some parents, they love this because we all have this weak point, or a lot of us have this weak point with the sentimentality with our children. We like to have something special, just me and the kid. Just something special, right? Because it makes me feel like a good parent, because I have something special with the kid, right? Meanwhile, I'm destroying them, but I'm just kidding, I'm exaggerating. But, we say, oh, Daddy doesn't give you this? Don't worry, I'll give it to you. It's our little secret, right? Or Mommy doesn't like that? No, I'll give it to you. We don't. That's a conflicting parenting experience, right? Your support system, last question. To what extent does your current family have a monopoly on the support you receive from the world? What I'm trying to say, my dear friends, is you individually, every single one of you and me, we need to have a healthy support system around us. Some of us, the only support system we have is our family. And not every support system is supportive. Okay? Some support systems are pretty destructive, are terrible. So you need to have a healthy support system, and it has to be something that you're in control of. You've chosen. We have 2 more slides. Now we're going to get into some practical things, okay? All right, and then we'll do some questions. 6 critical parenting approaches and 5 tips for successful parenting, okay? The first, these are approaches, they're kind of like mindset points, or just things to keep in mind as you're approaching interactions with your child. Number 1, wow, the text is so small. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yes. Yeah. This is also a vision test built into, if you can read this, you've got like 20/10 vision. It's great. All right, but I'll reading everything, so we'll get the slides after. Number 1, express love and affection very clearly, and never withdraw it. Express it very clearly. Like some of us, I'll tell you this story. We have a little bit of time. I remember I was at this years ago, like 15, 20 years ago. I was serving at a dinner that our church did for fathers and sons. And they're sitting there, blah, 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 and the speaker is saying, you guys got to tell your kids that you love them. And this father raises his hand and he says, why do I have to tell, his son's sitting right next to him. Why do I have to tell my son that I love him? Doesn't he see that I work 2 jobs, that I'm coming home late, exhausted every day? Doesn't he have all these things that I'm providing for him? Why do I have to tell him that I love him? This kid, by the way, ended up getting addicted to drugs, ended up being in so much trouble, failing out of school. It was just a disaster what happened to this kid. And I will never forget the look on his face while his dad was saying what he was saying. And I would ask the dad, you know what? Sure, if you're willing to do all that work, why can't you add those 3 words? Why, what's wrong? What's wrong? The reason is because when we express emotion, we expose ourselves. And some of us don't want to be exposed to that vulnerability. We don't want to deal with it, right? But we're setting our kids up for a lot of difficult emotional work if we're not able to do this. Express love and affection explicitly, clearly, directly. But whenever I see a kid, I just love to tell them, you're awesome, you're so cool, I love you, high five, yeah, that's great, give them a hug, whatever it is, right? You have to be clear about it. Never withdraw it. And monitor your behaviors very carefully when you are angry, frustrated, or inconvenienced. Some of us, we think that, if I'm angry, I'm justified or entitled to not be nice. No, that's on you. You have to still be nice anyway, right? Just because you're inconvenienced. By the way, what did we think having kids was going to be? Convenient? It's the most inconvenient thing. I don't even know what is more inconvenient than having kids. Maybe I'll find it eventually. But, they're so inefficient. Marriage is inefficient, right? Before, I could just wake up, make a decision. I could just go do it. Now, it's like, I got to talk to my spouse. I ask her, what does she think? And then she's like, wait, I'm not available to talk right now. All right, well, I got to wait 3 hours to make that decision. Would have taken me 1 second. Now it's going to take 3 hours. For no bad reason, right? And actually, that's the healthy thing to do, to check in with the other person. Usually I'm the one who needs the 3 hours, but. All right. Always behave respectfully. This should be the culture of your home. Every home has a culture. I talked about the tone of your home. Every home has a culture. One of the critical cultural points in your home is respect. Everyone needs to be respected, including the children. You talk with them respectfully. You ask them for their opinion at the right times in the right ways. You listen to them. You don't call them names. You don't yell at them. There's none of that stuff. None. There's no tolerance. Respect is part of the culture of your home. Number 3 is the most important one. At all times, see yourself as a leader and a trainer. Maybe some of us, because maybe our whatever position we have at work, maybe we're not that high in the chain, or there's 100 people on the chain above us, or whatever reason. Maybe you're insecure, maybe you have low self-esteem, maybe you never got validated from when you were younger. Every single parent is a leader. You are a leader, like a leader, right? And I want you to think about other leaders, presidents, bishops, priests, senior executives. That's you in your home. There's no other leader. It's you. And you're a trainer. When you think trainer, think about someone. One time I had a client. They were training the kids. The whole family was the client. And the 2 of the kids were training to be in the Olympics. The Olympics happen every 4 years. And the amount of training that they have to do during those 4 years, like for years, they're training for that one time when they can compete. The diet, the studies, homeschooling, every day going to the place where they were training for the specific thing they were competing in. All that stuff. It's training, discipline, right? And that's what we're doing with our kids. We're training them. I'll just quickly tell you these verses. I think this is the smallest font I have ever put on a slide ever, okay? But, here we are. Train up a child. These are all Bible verses. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. In Hebrews, now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful. Nevertheless, afterward, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Training is very important. We're training. Discipline, training, right? I didn't say harsh. I didn't say disrespectful. I just said training. That's all I said, right? He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. Think about rod. You don't have to think about a physical rod, but think about correction. Think about discipline. Think about boundaries. Think about the word no. Think about guidance. The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. Correct your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will give delight to your soul. Number 4 is as much as you can be prepared. This is part of your approach to parenting. For example, talking about sex. What are you going to say? When are you going to say it? There's a great book out there. I'm so happy it's here, called How and When to Tell Your Kids About Sex, by Stan and Brenna Jones. Awesome book. It's a Christian book. It's a big book. And it has a lot of scripts. We could do talks about this too, but read that book, right? You're building the sexual character of your children. And it happens over multiple conversations, okay? So that's what it means to be prepared. Being prepared means when your child is 1, 2, 3, you've already read that book. Because there's already some important sexual messages you should have given them by that age. And by the way, if you want, when we do Q&A, if someone wants to ask, hey, what if it's too late? We could talk about that question. Some of you might be thinking, my child's older now, I messed up everything, or I messed up a lot of things, I don't know what to do. We could talk about that question, but be prepared. Questions about God. Scenarios where you have yet to provide structure. Scenarios that will be uncomfortable or difficult. Be prepared. Avoid negative, unproductive cycles and patterns, even if they start because of something that is good. If in your day you are repeating the same argument, anything being repeated that's negative, stop it. You have not, as a parent, worked to find a creative solution to that pattern. Remember, the child's behavior is a response to your own. If there's a repeated pattern, every day, like I remember, I'll just use myself as an example. Almost every time we have now a table where my son can eat. My older son's 3 years old. His son can eat. Almost every single time, we're just, Anthony, stay seated. He takes his food, he takes a bite, and he runs to the couch, right? He runs to the couch. And I don't know where he learned this from, but he rubs his face in the cushions with the food, like this. And of course, we have light-colored cushions. So he and he looks at me and he runs, right? Well, you know what I could do every single time? Anthony, You know, we spend, and then I only have him for like an hour, hour and a half in the evenings before he goes to sleep. An hour, hour and a half, 60 to 90 minutes was spent arguing, negative energy, no, fighting, dragging him back, and that's my hour with my child. Who is it on to fix this? Me. So we discuss a solution, but we haven't implemented it yet. He actually still likes to sit in his high chair. But we only have one high chair because we have 2 kids. So, but if we get a high chair and it's available, he'll happily sit in it and he'll just eat. So it'll be totally fine. No issues. Everyone's happy. So it's on me to fix this, right? But we just haven't bought it. So I'm not going to fight with him. Find any negative pattern. I hear some parents, their evening routine, 3-4 hours. Sometimes a parent says, the kid came out of the room 70 times. Went in the room, slept for 2 hours, came out, jumped in my bed, slept in my bed, woke me up at 2 a.m., all the time. Literally, I probably get one of these texts a week from a parent who's complaining about the nighttime routine. Fighting, right? Any of these things, don't do it, right? Discipline your thinkings. Huh? We have to. Well, we have to. Yeah. But he's going to ruin the couch. But it's on me. That's my fault. If he ruins the couch, it's my fault. I'm responsible. He's a kid. He can't. Kids don't understand. They don't have the ability to control themselves that much yet. So if he's going to dirty the couch, why am I being upset with him? I already know what would work, and I haven't implemented it. I need to go buy the high chair, assemble it, and do it. I need to find the time. Well, I could buy a dark colored couch. You can see it's all on me, right, as the parent. But why am I going to? These are precious times, very precious times with our children. And I love, there was I don't mean to get like too sentimental, because sentimentality is not what should be motivating us. It's just the truth and responsibility and reality. But there was someone who said, imagine yourself when you're 80 years old. You will wish you could experience all that mess again. And I was just watching like a little video where a mother was talking about how, like every day in the morning she picks up her kid. And she said she realized like at some point he's going to be too heavy for me to pick up. So she started this question with her child. She said to him, son, like there's going to come a day when I can't carry you anymore. And so now every day they say to each other, is this the last time? And so they just say it just to cherish it and to look forward to it and all of that. But it's also it's kind of sad, right? Like you have these precious children and these precious moments and these precious times, and they're fleeting. They're vanished, they're leaving. And all I'm doing is saying, watch the couch. That's how I'm going to spend these precious finite times. Get over here, and that's what I'm going to do. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. The moments are precious. Cherish them, right? And by the way, if he was a teenager and he can control this process, then there would be consequences, right? But I'm talking about a toddler, right? They can't. They're just, all they do is they're like almost like animals, right? They want something, just do it, right? That's okay for a child, a little one, but for an adult, you can't do that. Discipline your thinking so that you never see your child as the enemy or an antagonist. Sometimes our children inconvenience us so much, and then we say, I have a rebellious child. I have a messed up child. Discipline your thinking, right? Because that's not how Christ thinks about you when you mess up. Never. Christ sees you mess up and he runs to you and he embraces you. And I want you to do that with your children. All right, 5 tips for successful parenting, and then we're done. Number 1, when discussing something that you're concerned about, expect for there to be multiple conversations that eventually tie together. Don't rush to complete delivery of your message in one conversation. When you're talking about something with your kids, especially something you're concerned about, because some of us, as parents, we think the stakes are high. I gotta save my kid from destroying themselves. Everything's a disaster. So when the topic that we want comes up, we just everything. We want to say everything. We want to tell them what to do. I love this happens all the time with older children, like adult children, and when their parents don't agree with their choice for a spouse. All the time, the parent just all the stuff, right? And the child's like, they're an adult, they're like 25, 30 years old. And they're just like, as a courtesy, they can do whatever they want. They're free. But for some reason, they listen to their parents. They still let their parents talk to them. Like, I listen to their parents, and the parents are just coming in hard. I had one parent, they were so unchristian in what they were saying about their child's choice for a spouse. I was like, man, this is not right? They're so filled with anxiety and worry about them getting married, anxiety and their rage, and they're angry and all this stuff. And so play the long game. That's something we say in the professional world. Play the long game, right? Think of it as, oh, my child just did this. I have what's going to happen now is not the last thing that's going to happen. Whatever I'm about to say is not the last opportunity I have to say something. Maybe I haven't thought about what I'm going to say. Maybe I'm not prepared. You know what you could say? Nothing. Or you could say something like, hey, could we talk about this later? Like, hey, I feel kind of concerned about this. We need to discuss this later. That's it. But some of us, we just rush with the message. Do not ask more than once for something that you are not prepared to enforce. Do not dilute or weaken the weight and the strength of your word as a parent. If you are a leader like makes requests and commands respect, and they do not need to plead with anyone. Because they're asking for something good. They are respected, they are trusted, they are very loving, because love is the leverage here. Love is the leverage. What I mean by leverage is, why should someone listen to you? At the end of the day, it's because they know you love them. That's why someone should listen. And that's why St. Paul says the love of Christ compels us. The love of Christ. Not the wrath of God, the love of Christ compels us. And remember, as soon as your child is born, you're losing control of them. Your control, your hold on them is weakening every day, right? By the time they get 13, 14, 15, sometimes talk to a parent, 13, 14, 15-year-old, and they're still trying to control. I'm like, that's not even, don't even try. They'll say yes to your face and go to school and do whatever they want. But the problem is that you failed, which by the way you can, God willing, redeem, but you failed to generate and create enough love in the relationship where you can make requests and advise and all these things and guide and protect if the love was strong. I just had a parent call me. Daughter ran away from home, is sleeping on the streets, addicted to drugs, didn't finish school. And I had been telling him for years, please speak to her kindly. Speak to her kindly. Embrace her. And every once in a while, when she doesn't have a place to sleep, she comes home. As soon as she enters the house, just to sleep. This is that. The guy you're with, all this. And I'm like, dude, you got nothing, man. You have nothing to work with. You got nothing. Why are you yelling? What are you going to do? Like, this is a disaster, right? And everyone's telling him, hey, when she comes home, man, just give her a hug. Tell her, it's so nice to see you. I love you. So good to see you. You're awesome. Thank you for coming. You're always welcome here. One time he got so upset, he said, don't come back unless you're going to do what I say. You're not welcome in this house. I'm like, what? What are we doing here? What are we doing? So do not ask for something more than once that you're not prepared to enforce. Because then, by the way, as a parent and our weakness, it's going to become about ego at some point. I'm like, oh, you're not going to listen to me? Now we're going to get serious. And we're going to start all these punishments and suffering and tribulations on this kid. Which is why, Like, we're on the same team. We're all trying to do good. Like, you think the kid wants to be unsuccessful in life? The older your children become, the more you will have to explain your reasoning. This does not mean that your children have to agree with it, but it means that you have to have thought it through and can explain it well. Explain your reasoning. By the way, some of you might say, well, you know what, I explained my reasoning and my child's not convinced. First, I want to say, a lot of times, most of the time, you did not explain your reasoning well. You don't even know what you're talking about. Why should let me ask you a question. Why should your child not have a boyfriend or girlfriend? Do you have a good, well thought out, structured reason? Why should your child go to church on Sunday? Why? Like, all we do is just go to church. Get up. Go to church. Get over here. What's wrong with you? Why didn't you come to church today? You were late. Why? We haven't thought through our own explanation. Actually, why did I even go to church on Sunday? I don't even know. I just did it because that's all I've been doing the whole time. And somebody told me that was the right thing to do. It was good for me. So you have to have thought it through because you have to explain your reason because the goal is to let them leave. That's why it says, train your child in the way he should go, and when he is older, he will not depart from it. Because you want them when they're older to have internalize it. They internalize it, right? By the way, these are the ways to influence. You teach, you let them face the consequences, and you help them to internalize it, right? So you try to get them to have inside of them the judgment that you have inside of you. And you do that by explaining your reasoning. As much as you can, touch or parent all the dimensions of your child every day. Touch every dimension. The physical, emotional, the social, relational, the spiritual, and the intellectual. As much as you can. So that means physical, every day, hug your child, touch them. Touch them. Sometimes I realize I'm so focused on one child, I didn't have a chance to touch the other one. I didn't have a chance to touch them. My younger child is an infant. But sometimes I realize there could be a whole day where I didn't touch the child. This is kind of sad. And then when I pick him up from school, I'm like, I miss him. I just want to give him, kiss him all over his face. But I didn't touch them. Emotional, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Right? Touch the emotional side. How did you feel today? And they tell you, sometimes, by the way, the conversation starts with facts, then moves to thoughts, then moves to feelings. So like, hey, what happened in school today? What excited you about school today? What did you think about that? How did that make you feel? Like that's a structure you can kind of form, you can kind of follow. But you get to the emotional, right? The social, relational. Like part of it is just like connected. You could do that in that same sequence, and you could do emotional and social. The spiritual, it could be very simple, just like a prayer, saying something about God, reading the Bible, or anything, any story, a cartoon that has a Bible story in it, anything. This is all spiritual. Intellectual, sometimes watch your child learn how to play with something or anything like that. But try to touch all these dimensions every day. Seek support from trusted, credible people is the very last point. I just want to, this isn't about being very critical on yourself. This isn't about comparing, and not everyone who's a good parent is able to explain how they're parenting. And by the way, remember, there was this one thing I noticed as kind of a little bias that our minds have, because I know some parents, they are very, very good at keeping their children calm and not rowdy. Like their children are so peaceful. And sometimes you look at these parents and you say, they're doing everything right. They're doing everything right. But just be a little careful, because sometimes we think like, oh, a child who's calm is free and is doing great, right? But really, maybe the child doesn't feel free to express themselves. Maybe they're just learning to suppress themselves and just keep quiet, don't share anything, don't have opinions, all that. So as long as you're sitting there, as Arabic says, alif, as long as you're just standing there and that's it. So just be careful about what you're choosing to copy or emulate from other people. In general, just the 4 E's I like to say for credible people: people with experience, people with expertise, people you want to emulate, and people who can educate you. So experience, who is a credible person in your life in any scenario? So they have one of these 3 things, and then the 4th one. They have experience, they have experience helping and doing this stuff. They have expertise, they know, they studied, they know. They are someone you want to emulate, you want to be like them in something. Any one of those 3 is fine. And then they have to be able to educate you. They have to be able to teach you what they're doing. Because some people, they just do it, but they don't know how to explain it. And kind of work with you to help you internalize what they're doing. Okay? All right, that's the end of the prepared material. Are we doing Q&A or we're out of time?
I think maybe we can take one question.
Okay, one question, yeah.
And then we'll give a 5-minute break, and then we'll hop into session 2.
Okay, cool. Yes.
Yeah, I heard one time about consequences and not to be a punitive way. How can you give consequences for some behavior that doesn't look like a punishment or punitive?
Yeah, honestly, in general, we're preparing our children to live in the real world. In the real world, there are punishments. And so punitive, maybe what we mean is we don't want to create consequences out of revenge. Like sometimes the child hurt us, or we feel hurt by the child. And so we want to impose pain, we want to create pain for them. But out of revenge. Sometimes we're not pure in what we're trying to do. Yeah. Or sometimes we think maybe we have seen so much pain and suffering in family life growing up or something, that the only way we really understand consequences is in a way that like makes the child scream, or is like really harmful. But really what you're trying to do is have a consequence that's proportionate to the offense. So, for example, if the child steals something, which by the way, if the child steals something, but the first time, you might, remember, no one is evil. They're just trying to learn life and understand where the limits are, right? So in the first time, maybe you could take it a little lightly, but if it happened, but then you could create a consequence. If you steal something, 3 or 4 times, in 3 or 4 future instances, the value of that thing you're not going to get. So for example, if you steal candy, then, and they usually get candy, you're not going to get candy for the next 4 days or something, or the next 4 times you want candy or something like that. Or you're going to not get to use another privilege that you have. And of course they're going to push back. Of course they're going to push back. But don't do something that's kind of like disproportionate, something like you're not going to get to eat candy for 3 months, That's not, they're not going to, after 2 weeks, now they're just going to become bitter and resentful. They're going to forget what the lesson is. They're just going to hate the parent, So it's okay for consequences to be painful. It's okay. Consequences should be painful. But St. John Chrysostom in his book on the priesthood says that a surgeon, to do a good job, has to cut at the right depth. If they cut too shallow, they're just cutting and harming the person and not doing anything. If they cut too deep, they're causing too much harm and they're not doing anything. So part of the challenge as a parent is a challenge. It's an actual challenge. Like I have to become a better, smarter, more creative, more prepared person. Is to think, be prepared, to have consequences that are proportionate to the offense. And think about, some of us don't know our children well enough to even know what they like, so that we could then take it away as a consequence. We don't even know our children well enough. So there's no issue at all with a consequence being painful. It just should not be harmful, and it should be proportionate to the offense, and it should come from a pure, loving heart. Like that's very, very important. But really, and like for example, like you don't need to hit them. Like most of the time you don't. Like almost never. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for saying that. I thought after all this talk, people already got that message. Sorry, I should have said that. You're right. You're absolutely right. Like that's why I was saying they're not evil. Like they're just like a kid who's trying to understand what the boundaries in the world are. And really, the main way to know the boundaries in the world is to test them all. Like it's kind of like you just keep bumping into you keep bumping into things. Like you go to someone, you push them, and you see what happens. Because they don't know, there's no other way for them to learn. They're just going to go push a kid. And if you just pull them away, but it's okay if the other kid pushes them back. Like it's okay. It's not like this isn't a good interaction, but it's a consequence, because if you do something like that, the world's going to respond to you and say, no, you're not allowed to do that. If you steal something, you're going to be deprived of something. A privilege will be taken away in life. So, but you need to ask them, like, hey, why did you do this? By the way, younger children are so impulsive. They work on impulses. So 3 up to 4 maybe years old, maybe 5, depending on the child. They can't really explain why. There's no, you say, why did you hit your brother? They're like, what? There's no why. There's no reason. I just did what I wanted to do. Basically, they're saying, I'm an animal. I just do what I want. I just do it. So the only thing they respond to is consequences. By the way, there's a very good Instagram profile called Brat Busting Parenting. I really want everyone to find this lady. Yeah, Brat, B-R-A-T, Busting Parenting. We'll find it. By the way, if someone doesn't like it, or if Clara, you don't like it, you could say, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll take, because there are many points of view, right? She seems a little, on the surface, she seems a little harsh, but she's explaining how to have real consequences for your children, right? And how to respond. The child whines and screams. You know, a child, 2, 3, 4 years old. What if they're a 15, 16-year-old and they're whining and screaming? What do you do? So that's just one of the things. There's some other resources, just real quick. Boundaries with teens, boundaries with kids. There's Parenting Towards the Kingdom out there. Honestly, Boundaries with Kids and Boundaries with Teens are really good books. Really, really good books. Parenting Towards the Kingdom is out there. There's a book called Boys in Crisis. I want people to get on that book. I mean, even if you don't have any boys, it's very good to read it because it talks about the role of the dad. And there's one other book. We'll remember. Oh yeah, the one about sex. How not to tell your kids about sex, which is out there. Yeah. Okay. Can I take another question, or you don't want to?
It's okay, I just want to make sure everyone has enough time for a break.
Yeah, we'll have a panel, or what are you going to do?
So in our workshop too, it's an hour of just being.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. Glory be to God forever. Amen.